Oh, once again, Macintosh works. It just plugged it in. And if this was a Windows machine, it would take half an hour to make it work. But that's, so thank you very much. Listen, my son goes to UH, so I realized that you are in finals. He's in finals too. And it happens that I'm here because of a wedding on Saturday. And so I told Sandy, I'm coming anyway, and if you can get a crowd, I'll be happy to talk. And she said, well, it's finals and everybody's busy and studying and all that. I said, well, Sandy, that is a very good test of entrepreneurship, because if you cannot handle studying for finals and going to a presentation, you're probably not an entrepreneur, because it's going to be a lot tougher to be an entrepreneur than to just take finals and go to a speech. So you've self-selected into the winners, basically. This presentation is geared towards students. The second one is geared towards old people. This one is for you, and I actually wish my son were here, but he told me he's studying. He might be surfing at Publix, but right, he told me he's studying. So I am a parent of 4 children. They are 19, 21, 30, and 32. So I've been through this before. And I know one thing that is true, that people never listen to their parents, but they can listen to somebody else who says the exact same thing. And coming from somebody else, they'll believe it, but not from their parents. So in a sense, I'm glad my son is not here, because I know he's not going to believe me anyway. So I told him that it's going to be recorded, so maybe he'll watch it. All right. So this presentation, why did we go to green screen? I put the hex on me.
We thought that was part of your presentation. Like you're trying to trick us.
It's the ghost of Steve Jobs. I can do it without it anyway.
I don't know. Why are you blaming Sandra?
Can I come up here? Stop, You're speaking up.
Lock got it.
There's not a lot that can go wrong on an HDMI cable.
Just right.
See, this was going too smoothly, but I'm telling you, the test of a great speaker is you can deal with stuff like this. And it's like,
Don't touch it.
see, what did I tell you? So this presentation is based on, well, I'm 71 years old, so I've been in Silicon Valley for about 40 years. I worked for Apple, Google, Wikipedia, Mercedes-Benz, and now Canva. You probably all use Canva, right? Yeah, so I'm the chief evangelist of Canva. I was born and raised in Kalihi Valley. I went to Kalihi Elementary. After Kalihi Elementary, thank you, God. You went to Kalihi Elementary. After, my 6th grade teacher in Kalihi Elementary told my parents that to put me in a college prep school because I had potential to go to college. And luckily, my parents listened to her. And so they put me into Iolani. And, from Iolani, I don't know how or why, but somehow I applied to Stanford. And God forbid, I got in. And I still don't know why. I wouldn't get in today for sure. And I actually think that was kind of divine. And, this was so long ago that being Japanese American was considered being an oppressed minority. So I swear I got into Stanford because I was an oppressed minority. That's not exactly the case today. So this is a presentation that reflects what I've learned and what I would like to communicate to you. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I did everything right in my career. So you are benefiting from the hindsight of my career. to help you be remarkable as fast as you can right out of school. Okay, that's the point. This is for students. It's not for deans, it's for students, okay? So the first thing I want to say to you is this is a very simple 2x2 matrix that can be the guiding light of your life. The vertical axis measures whether you are, your product, your company, your service, is this product valuable or not valuable? The horizontal axis measures whether it is a very common thing that many people do or it's unique, only you do. So I believe most of life can be explained in a 2x2 matrix. So if you're in the upper left-hand corner, you do something good, it's valuable, but it's common. So if you do something good, but lots of people do it, you always have to compete on price. And that's the worst thing to compete on. The bottom corner is where you do something not valuable, and lots of dumb people do it too. And that's all the dumb people are in this corner. They're doing stuff that lots of people are doing, and it is not valuable. In this corner, only you do what you do, but it is not valuable, so nobody cares. That corner is kind of sad because at least you're unique. It's unfortunate you're not valuable. So I want you to just focus on that upper left-hand corner, that as an employee, you have unique and valuable skills. You've created a product that is unique and valuable. You've created a service that is unique and valuable. You've created a school that's unique and valuable. And as you have relationships in your life, if you are a unique and valuable spouse, you got it made. And the whole key to life is being unique and valuable. And I'll give you an illustration via a product. So I would say when the first iPod came out, it truly was in that corner, because this was the first little thing that could hold 1,000 songs. It had a user interface that a mere mortal could operate. It had a wide selection of music titles you could pick from. You could get the music for 99 cents a song, and it was legal. There is nothing else that could have said all of that. User interface, hold 1,000 songs, legal, inexpensive songs. So that's the corner you want to be in, all right? 2x2 matrix, upper right-hand corner. Now, the first thing is, I think, and I honestly don't blame you if you have this wrong right now, but I think a lot of young people, they're trying to build the entire planet. They're trying to use another metaphor, boil the ocean. They want to be good at everything. They want to dominate in everything. And I think that you're setting yourself up for vast disappointment if you're trying to build a planet. All you want to do is build an island, which I'm trying to say that you don't need to be good at math and physics and music and everything, and social studies and behavioral psychology and computer intelligence and all that. If you're trying to make the whole planet, it's too much. Just find something, one island that you can be great at. It could be programming, it could be writing, it could be script writing, it could be making videos, it could be cooking, it could, pick one and just make an island. Over the course of your life, you may make several islands, but it's highly unlikely you're going to make a planet. So set your expectation that I just want to build a great island. I don't need to do everything right. That's step number one. Step number two is, and this is something that many people get wrong, they think that the way to make progress in a job is to make your boss look good. Make your boss look bad. And the thinking is kind of like, I'm going to show up my boss. I'm going to be better than my boss. They're going to fire my boss, and they're going to promote me over my boss. I have literally never, ever seen that happen. You have to accept something in life. Your role in your life is to make your boss look good, not bad. And when your boss looks good, your boss gets promoted, your boss gets raises, your boss gets more responsibility, and you just coast behind your boss. And as your boss rises, you rise until someday somebody's going to say, that guy, that gal has been with that successful person for so long. We should give him or her his or her own shot. So contrary to this kind of thing, like I'm going to make my boss look bad so I get promoted over him, that's the absolute wrong thing to do. Your job is to make your boss look good so your boss gets promoted and takes you along with him or her. So make your boss look good. Number 3 is I want you to consider that you have to use every single weapon at your disposal. That there's no purity here, that you're not supposed to like win by only using certain methods. And I'll take an example, like I'm a writer, I've written 16 books. And you could have this purist thing like, I'm not going to use grammar checkers, I'm not going to use AI, I'm not going to use outside editors, I'm going to do everything myself, and you're not using all your weapons. So how many of you consider yourselves like AI just gods, that you can write the best prompts in this room? How many? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to show you one that maybe you'll say, Guy, that's not that impressive, but I want to show you something. By the way, I'm breaking the number 1 rule of making presentations, which is you should never do a live demo in a speech, because the probability of this working and crashing is pretty bad. So I've opened up ChatGPT already here. All right, so I'm going to show you a prompt that I've written. So I'm telling ChatGPT, make me a 16:9 presentation, black background, right font. I want a title page that says how to be indispensable. Make that title page 90-point font, wrap the text around, and put a University of Hawaii logo in the middle of that. I have 11 points. These are 11 points I'm going through in this presentation. I want you to number those from 1 through 11. I want you to place the logo of my podcast in the bottom right corner of the PowerPoint presentation. And then I want the last slide to be black and blank. Is that the kind of prompts you write? Yeah, you, my man. All right. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it in ChatGPT. And I'm going to cross my fingers that I did this all right. So first of all, I'm going to upload my podcast logo. Secondly, I'm going to upload the UH logo. And then I'm going to paste in my prompt. And I'm going to let ChatGPT try to build this presentation. Now, I would make the case that to go back a little bit, you take 2 equal people. One has a calculator, one doesn't. The one with a calculator is going to win. You take 2 equal people, one with a computer, one without. The one with the computer is going to win. And I would say the same thing. Why does it say stop analyze? I would make the same case that is true of AI. So we're going to see what this does. It takes about 30 seconds. And I can tell you, I have built thousands and thousands of presentations. And in 30 seconds, the first 30 seconds, you probably spend trying to boot PowerPoint because it says, you got the wrong version, or Microsoft wants you to enter your password again or something. All right, so now it has created a 16:9 presentation in PowerPoint format. I'm going to download it. And this is what it looks like. First slide, title slide, UH logo, the 11 points, last slide, blank and black. Tell me something. How could you have done that in 30 seconds without AI? And so my message not so much is that you have to use things to build slides. I'm just telling you that look at what you can do. I mean, that was, what I just did is inconceivable prior to ChatGPT. And I have like manuscripts. I send manuscripts to ChatGPT and I say, find all the passive voices and highlight the passive voices and show me how to turn them active. Find me all, I'm writing a book about Signal right now. I tell it, find me all the factual errors about Signal. And it says, you know, Guy, you said Signal encrypts the metadata completely. It does not encrypt the metadata completely. It encrypts the metadata better than WhatsApp or Messages or Messenger, but it doesn't do it completely. And that's the kind of fact checking and grammar checking and writing and editing that ChatGPT does. So my whole point is, you know, how would people have done that before in 30 seconds? There is no frickin' way they could have done that. So I just use that as a case of how you just have to use all your tools, okay? So now let's go back to my PowerPoint here, which is here, and we're gonna go to View. And if I blow it, it's going to be because it goes back to the very start, which it did. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is, I think as an employee, particularly a young employee who has just come out of college, and you're supposed to know everything about ChatGPT and know everything about social media and all that. I hate to tell you, the pressure's on you. So I will tell you something that you should never, ever, ever go to your boss and say, I don't know how to do something. If you go to your boss and say, I don't know how to add a printer to a wireless network. If you go to your boss and he says, I don't know how to make your iPhone flash when you have it turned upside down and it doesn't beep, but it flashes the light. You should never, ever, ever say to your boss you don't know how to do something. Because between Google and ChatGPT, every question can be answered today. Seriously, I would be surprised if you, I mean, I guess you could ask it for the meaning of life, but a ChatGPT would probably give you an answer to that. If you went to ChatGPT and said, should we teach the history of slavery in America to American students, it would give you a very cogent answer. So my point is that when you're working for a boss, your boss wants solutions. Your boss doesn't want questions. So you should never, ever, ever ask your boss a question about how to do something, because the knowledge of the entire humankind is available now. And it's your job to get it. So figure out a solution. Number 5. Number 5 is that as you started these jobs, this is a lot of tough love in this presentation. I'm telling you, if your job starts at 8 o'clock, get there at 7:30. If you think you're getting there at 8 o'clock and you're on time, you're not. You're late. You're late. You should get there before your job starts. And if your job ends at 5, I don't want to see you running out of that building at 5. I want you at 5:30 or 6. This is how people pick up how good an employee is. You gotta. I'm going to tell my son. My son is working for Iolani this summer, right? And he's going to be this art teacher's assistant, and it's probably 8 to 4 or 8 to 3 or whatever. I'm going to tell him, get your ass. I want to see your ass at Iolani at 7:30. I want to see your ass at Iolani until 4:30. I don't care if it starts at 8 and ends at 3 or 4. I want to see you. And I have you on my Find My on Apple. So you can try to fake me out and leave your phone at Iolani overnight, but I'm going to know so I can track your ass with Find My. So you better be at Iolani early and you better be leaving late every day. And when you're a boss, I guarantee you, that's how you're going to judge your employees too. And not that they They showed up at 8 o'clock for an 8 o'clock job, and they left at 4 for a 4 o'clock job. You get there early, you leave late. Number 6. Number 6 is whenever your boss asks you to do something, you always say yes. Now, there are some limits to this. Like if your boss is in charge of open heart surgery for Queens Medical Center and you know, you're an intern and your boss says, do you know how to perform open heart surgery? You don't say yes, okay? But I'm telling you, within reason, like one of the people I interviewed for my podcast, his name is Andrew Zimmern. He does this TV show called Bizarre Foods. And Andrew Zimmern, until he was 30, struggled with drugs. And at 30, he went clean, and he had 3 internships at once. One of the internships was at a Minnesota TV station. And he said that somebody told him, his mentor told him, Andrew, if you want to be successful in life, you have to make yourself indispensable. And how do you make yourself indispensable? We're coming to that. But one of the things that Andrew said is, if the TV general manager said, we need somebody to string lights, Andrew raised his hand. If he said, we need somebody to go through hours of video and find the few seconds we want, Andrew raised his hand. If the general manager said, we need someone to like put all the chairs out for the presentation, Andrew said yes. So I'm telling you, always say yes. I'm telling you, and it's great advice. Just fake it until you make it. Just if you couple this recommendation with the previous one, if you say yes, and all the knowledge of the world is online in AI and Google, so now you say yes. You go to ChatGPT, you go to Google, and then you figure out, oh, how do I do what I just said I knew how to do? It's absolutely doable. Don't ever tell your boss, I don't know. You don't say, I don't know. If at the very worst, you say, I don't know yet, which is very different than, I don't know, you got to figure it out. Never do that. Number 7. Number 7 is, quite frankly, you just have to do the shit that nobody else wants to. If you want to be indispensable, people got to look at you and, man, that guy will like, you know, if you're working for a surf school, you got to be willing to do the shit of cleaning all the surfboards, of, you know, cleaning out all the wetsuits, cleaning out all the booties. You got to come early, stay late. You want to be indispensable. You got to do the shit work. And I interviewed a guy named Mike Maron, and he wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-U-C-K. And he said, you know, Guy, you can figure out when you have found your true love in life, in your career, when the shit work that's involved in that career is something that you love. That's how you tell. Right? So as a podcaster, I can tell you there's a lot of shit work. I take about 5 or 6 hours to prep, to interview any guest. There's a lot of editing. It's very tedious work. If you are a writer, you read your manuscript hundreds of times. You look for so many mistakes. You change every passive voice. You take out all the adverbs. You're changing sentence structure. You're doing it over and over and over again. And people from the outside looking in, they say, man, writing is a lot of shit work. Podcasting is a lot of shit work. I had dinner at Roy's last night. I bet you if I went to Roy Yamaguchi and said, Roy, isn't there a lot of shit work you have to do at Roy's? Like, you gotta, I don't know, clean the fish. You gotta sharpen the knives. You gotta, like, clean the sink. He said, Guy, if you love cooking, that's the shit work you love. So I'm telling you, you have to be willing to do the shit work that nobody else will do, because that will set you apart. Number 8. Number 8 is this concept that there is always going to be bad news in your career, that sales aren't as good, or something crashed, or, you know, the computer doesn't work with the projector. There's always going to be bad news. And the temptation is that you postpone telling your boss that there's bad news until the very end, because before the very end, a miracle might occur and the computer works and sales picks up and the denial of service ended and all that kind of stuff. And that's a very flawed way of thinking. You should tell your boss bad news as fast as possible, because the faster you tell your boss the bad news, the more chance you have to fix the bad news before it gets to be worse news. So contrary to what you might believe of trying to postpone bad news, you should deliver bad news early to give everybody the most chance to fix it. Number 9. Number 9 is more tough love. That, a lot of people, they think, I'm going to get a work-life balance. I'm going to have this wonderful life. I'm making a lot of money, and I surf every day, and I have this lovely life, and I don't have to go into the Google office because I can do Zoom from Bali and, all this kind of stuff. And I will tell you that over the course of your life, you would like to be able to say, I achieved work-life balance. But this is at the end of your life. At the end of life, you want to say that, roughly speaking, I worked really hard and then I played really hard. But that's by summing up everything over your career. It's not true at any given moment. So I would say, as you enter the workforce, just give up this concept of work-life balance. You're just going to have to work your ass off. And if you work your ass off in the second half of your career, you don't have to work hard and you can have all the balance you want. So as you are about to die, you say, I achieved work-life balance. For the first half of my life, I suffered. For the second half of my life, I had a great life. That's work-life balance. Not on any given single day that you have work-life balance every day. It doesn't work like that. You're looking for the cumulative, not the daily slice of life, okay? And number 10. Number 10 is always be truthful. This kind of ties into delivering bad news early. That you will find over your course of your career that there are going to be times you're going to try to lie, you're going to try to tell white lies, you're going to make excuses. And I advise you not to do that because, and I've done it, the problem with telling a lie is that it takes much more energy to maintain a lie. Because as soon as you tell a lie, you have to remember which lie you told to which person. And it gets very complicated. What did I tell her? What did I tell him? What if she talks to him? What if they all coordinate? So you have to keep this all straight. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember that because usually there is only one truth. So tell the truth all the time. It may hurt you in the short run, but in the long run, it is the way to go. And I'll tell you a Steve Jobs story about telling the truth. So one day I was in my cubicle and Steve Jobs, in his Steve Jobsian way, shows up with this person that I'd never met before. And he says, Guy, what do you think of this company called Nowhere? Knoware. It was an educational software company back in the 1980s before you were born. And I said, well, Steve, Nowhere is kind of a mediocre company. It has mediocre software, drill and practice, 2 + 2 = 4, doesn't really take advantage of Macintosh graphics, doesn't take advantage of Macintosh multimedia capabilities. It's like 2 + 2 = 4, Steve. That's not a strategic product for us, not a strategic company for us. Then he turns to the guy and he says, turns back to me. And he says, Guy, I want you to meet the CEO of Nowhere. So Steve Jobs totally set me up. Now, if I had said, oh, Steve, it's a really insanely great product. It's strategic for us. It's awesome. It's going to drive the sales of Macintosh. I might have been fired on the spot. Steve Jobs does stuff like that. He fired you on the spot if you were stupid. And that would have been a stupid answer. So luckily, I was either dumb enough to tell the truth or honest enough to tell the truth. But I told the truth. I thought, this guy's product is shit. What can I tell you, Steve? So now, knowing how Steve works, what probably occurred is that that guy came in to see Steve. And he told Steve, you know, man, my company's smoking hot. We're selling thousands of copies of software. Our software is innovative, it's patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting, educational software, Steve. We're winning awards. It's the most amazing software you have ever seen, Steve. And Steve, because Steve was omniscient, Steve would have said, you're full of shit. Your software is shit. And he said, no, Steve, that's not right. We're selling thousands of copies. We're getting all these awards. And Steve would have said, let's go see Guy Kawasaki. He's my software evangelist. He's dealing with all the software companies. Let's go see what he says. Walks over to Guy. Guy, what do you think? Guy says, he's shit. I passed the test. I passed the test. That would have been a career-limiting move or career-ending move if I told him that that was great software, and he knew it was shitty software. So the lesson I learned that day is tell the truth, because the truth will set you free. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. I don't know if you're going to ever encounter someone like Steve who would purposely set up that kind of situation, but actually, I hope you do work for people like that, because that will truly keep you on your toes. So that's my 10 thoughts about how to be a remarkable person coming out of college. And I want to tell you one more thing, that you guys are going to be mentally fit and physically fit probably till your 90s, right? And so if you're, I don't know what, 20, 25 right now, you got a lot of years. So if I were you, do not sweat your first job. What you should be doing right now is collecting data. You're collecting data. You're looking for things that interest you, and you keep pursuing those interests, and knock on wood, one of those interests will turn into a passion. But don't start off saying, I gotta find my passion in life. My passion is going to be instant love. I'm going to be instantly good at it. And it's going to be this Venn diagram of what I love to do, what I'm good at, and what I can make money at. I hate to tell you, but it doesn't work like that. Most likely you're going to find something that you love to do, you suck at, and you cannot make money. And if you find those three things and you still do it, that's a good sign, because it means you truly do love it. So don't sweat your first job. I could make the case that I know a lot of people in Silicon Valley, like, they're so obsessed with their first job. They want to make this, absolutely perfect choice. So I'll give you two extremes. So let's say that you graduate from college, you have a degree in, let's say, biochemistry. Okay? You have a degree in biochemistry, and you want to make the perfect first job. And lo and behold, you get recruited by Theranos. And Theranos is this remarkable company that is going to take one drop of blood and diagnose everything that's wrong with you. And the cover, and the CEO of Theranos is on the cover of Fortune and Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. She's wearing her black mock turtleneck. Everybody's saying she's the female Steve Jobs. She has a board of directors with 2 secretaries of state, 2 very famous venture capitalists, 2 very famous doctors, everything. My God, I got the perfect job. I'm working for Theranos, right? 2 years later, she's in jail because it was all bullshit. Now, you could make the case that's the worst possible choice you made. You thought you had the best choice. You made the worst choice, because now you're going to be tagged as a crook, as a liar, part of the Theranos scheme, right? I would probably make the case that I'm not saying you should intentionally go find the next Theranos or the next crypto crook, but I'm telling you that you would probably learn more from working for Theranos or for a company that implodes than you will for a company that takes off. Because if you work for a company that takes off, for the rest of your life, you will not be able to distinguish causation from correlation. And let me tell you, there are thousands of employees in Silicon Valley who all believe they caused Google's success. And really, they just happened to get on a tsunami and they got lucky. They didn't cause Google's success. They were correlated with Google's success, but they're never ever going to come to that realization because at 22, they went and became a junior programmer, and at 30, they were worth $100 million. So of course my shit doesn't stink. I'm amazing, I'm remarkable. That's because you got lucky. So I'm telling you, again, don't go looking for Theranos. Don't go looking for companies that's going to implode. But I'm telling you, I have learned, because I've been involved with failures and successes, you actually learn more from a failure than from a success. Don't go looking for failure. But if you encounter failure, the opposite of success is not failure. The opposite of success is learning. As long as you're learning, you're doing all right, especially at your age. You got 65, 70 more years to get it right. Chillax, man. Take it easy. Take it easy. Just find those interests. Pursue your interests. And when you start doing something that has a lot of shit work and you love the shit work, you know you're on the right path. All right? So now, I have one more, giving you a bonus. So I interviewed a psychologist from Harvard named Elizabeth Langer, and she told me that, Guy, in these days, everybody spends so much time trying to make the perfect right decision. We use AI, we use big data, we use Palantir, we use all this stuff. We're going to make the perfect decision. And the thinking is that if you make the perfect decision, then everything else, the implementation is easy. My observation is it's the opposite, that implementation is hard and making the right decision is not that hard, because quite frankly, it's very difficult to know you made the right decision because so many things can change. And to take an extreme example, if you made the perfect right decision in February of 2020, in March of 2020, you probably made a terrible decision, right? And so what I learned from Elizabeth Langer is that rather than being obsessed with making the right decision and regretting your decision and trying to redo your decision, you take your best shot at your decision and then you make your decision right. It's about making your decision right, not making the right decision. Now, if the PowerPoint gods are with me, I'm going to show, this is a surfing video that I think is a metaphor for life, all right? So, how many of you surf in this audience? All right, so, at least at my level, about 90% of surfing is you're looking for the right wave to make the right decision, paddle in the right direction, at the right speed, pop up at the right time, turn at the right time, get off at the right time. It's like all about making this perfect decision. But sometimes you make the wrong decision and you sit in the wrong place and you catch the wrong wave or the wave catches you, you have no choice. So let me show you. This is a woman, she's in a longboard competition. She's searching for the right place to sit. She picks the wrong place. She's about to get pounded. But somehow she still gets a ride out of a very bad decision. What she did is she made her decision right. She didn't make the right decision. And I'm telling you, that is how life goes. That you sit there, you try to sit in the right place, you pick the right wave, the right company, you pick Theranos, you pick this, you pick that. And boom, something happens, and then you just have to make that decision right. So that's my last thought for you. Make your decision right. And that's my 11 points about how to make a remarkable life. Thank you. Now, I have to violate all of HIPAA for you're going to love this story. So, I have been in Silicon Valley for about 40 years. And over those 40 years, I have literally been pitched thousands of times. Thousands of times. I've had pitches to build a geodesic dome over Los Angeles to prevent air pollution. I don't remember if the geodesic dome was going to keep the air pollution in or out, but there was a geodesic dome over LA. I was pitched on an idea. I'll give you a little slice of life of Silicon Valley venture capital in case you ever want to deal with them. So once I was a venture capitalist, and this is back when laptops were just starting, and laptops didn't have SSDs, they had hard disks. And if you drop a laptop with a hard disk and the head hits the platter, there goes your data, right? So this company said, yeah, we're addressing this problem when people drop their laptops and the head parks into the platter and ruins the platter. Sounds good to me, right? Sounds like a great idea. So we drive to the guy's company. We get there, the receptionist says, oh, our executive team is on the phone with IBM personal computer division, the people who make IBM's laptops, and they're on this really important conference call, so we apologize, but we're just going to be a few minutes late. Okay, sounds good. I like to hear that this company is on the phone with IBM, laptop people. The guy comes out of the phone and off the meeting, comes to me, and then he starts pitching us about, we're patent pending, curve jumping, paradigm shifting thing. IBM is so excited, they want to put in an order already because, they realize that people are damaging their laptops and we're like salivating, like, oh my God, this is a great opportunity. Like, imagine if we're preventing all the laptop hard disks from imploding. And so, okay, this is the part where you just have to trust me. I am not making shit up, okay? I tell him, all right, so can you just give us the gist of what your product does? And he says, yeah, we have military spec foam, and we wrap the foam around the hard disk, and we put it in the laptop. And at that point, I was having an out-of-body experience. I said, you're telling me that your patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, revolutionary, innovative product to prevent laptop damage is you're going to put foam around the hard disk? He said, yeah, and IBM really loves that idea. You guys looking at me like I'm nuts. At that point, I seriously thought, this is one of those kind of things where they have a hidden camera, and they're trying to say, like, which dumbass venture capitalist is going to say, oh, that's a great idea, we want to sign. So anyway, I tell you that long story because I've been hearing pitches like that for about 40 years. And so I lost my hearing. I have a cochlear implant in this side. And so it's very hard for me to pick up people's conversation at random, depending on the whether you have a high pitch or low pitch voice and all this kind of factors. So I'm telling you all of this that you may have to ask a question, and Sandy is going to repeat it to me because she has a microphone that goes straight into my head without trying to get through my inner ear. So with all that, now you can ask the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation today. So in the past, Silicon Valley is the best place to start a business. But now, and in the future, where is the best place to start a business?
Okay, I caught that. So there is no doubt that there are advantages to Silicon Valley, okay, because there's a venture capital community there. There's a lot of technology there. There's a lot of employees who work for technology companies. There's an atmosphere in the air that it's okay to fail because lots of Silicon Valley companies are founded by people who failed the first 2 or 3 times. So there's a lot of advantages. On the other hand, there's a lot of disadvantages because you're competing with Apple and Google and Meta and Pinterest and NVIDIA and like everybody for talent, right? So that's the downside. And I would tell you that if you are truly an entrepreneur, you're gonna make it work wherever you are. And if you're an entrepreneur, you say, yeah, we're in Silicon Valley, we have all these advantages, we're like 1 mile from Sand Hill, we're 1 mile from Stanford Computer Science Department, blah, 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 right? if you're not in Silicon Valley, then you say, yeah, we're not in Silicon Valley, but we have a captive audience because there's much fewer tech jobs, so we can skim the cream of the crop from the University of Hawaii Engineering School because we're not competing against Google and Meta and Apple and all that. So yes, so it's all about how you like approach it, that for every bad sign, there's a good side for this. So I'm telling you that if you are going to be an entrepreneur, listen, I would love if you could say, yeah, I have found a growth market. I have a world-class proven team. I have infinite money. I have brand awareness. And I have no competition. If you're waiting for that day is never going to come. So you just, if you're in Hawaii and you're starting a company, you say, listen, I have this advantage. I can talk to Asia and I can talk to mainland because I'm right in the middle. I have this advantage because there's not a lot of tech startups in Hawaii, so I can cherry pick the computer science department at University of Hawaii. I'm in Hawaii, and a lot of people relocated to Hawaii during the pandemic, and now Google is telling them you've got to come back to the office 3 days a week. So they all want to quit Google and they want to stay in Hawaii. So I can pick all the Google employees. I mean, I can spin a story any way you want. So I'm telling you that as an entrepreneur, you just got to make things happen. And because the entrepreneur who is in Silicon Valley saying, how do I compete with Apple? Apple is offering first-year comp sci, graduates $250,000. How can I keep up with that? So the grass is always greener. But if you're an entrepreneur, you believe that you can fertilize and water what's around you and make it grow. Okay, that's a long answer.
Thank you.
What else?
So you mentioned working hard, coming in early, leaving late. So what do you have to say to the folks, like students who just graduate and they didn't get the job that they wanted, and they don't care for the work that they do, and you're telling them, if you go in early and you leave late, you're gonna eventually do well, but they don't believe that. What do you have to say to them?
Well, I didn't catch the last sentence.
Okay.
You go.
What do you tell students that aren't at their ideal job, but you're telling them go in early, stay late, but they don't want to be there and they don't think it's going to work out? So what would you tell a student like that?
Suck it up. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. That, you got to stay in the game, right? I mean, well, what's the alternative? You're going to what? What are you going to do? You like smoke meth all day? What are you going to do? I mean, listen. It's easy for somebody like me to say this, right? But you just got to keep grinding. It's there. If there was something magic I could tell you that would solve all these problems, I would charge you a lot of money to tell you the answer. You just have to suck it up, and you got to figure out that you got 65 or 70 years, and you're not gonna not get a job for 65 years. And what's your major?
Computer science.
Okay, so if you're computer science, you enter hackathons, you offer to do free programming for people, you do whatever it takes, and then somebody will notice you along the way and say, you know what, that guy does great work. He's working as an intern. I mean, really, I wish I could tell you that, every writer believes, the people who are today's New York Times journalists, they started working for the Nanakuli Press, and they were like, interns for Nanakuli Press, and they worked for free, and they did nothing, and then they just kept at it, and they went from Nanakuli Press, they went to the Honolulu Star Bulletin Advertiser, they went to the LA Times, they went to the New York Times. It may have taken 20 years, but you just got to pay the price. There's no shortcuts to this. But I would enter hackathons, I would volunteer, I would ask my professors for, special project, I would work for not-for-profits. You just gotta stay in the flow.
Thank you.
Did I depress you?
So after seeing thousands of different presentations, other than a good idea, were there any validating qualities that you've noticed over the years?
Okay, his voice I could not hear.
After seeing thousands of presentations, are there any validating qualities that you see in entrepreneurs over the years?
Yeah.
Or in presentations?
Do you ever have venture capitalists come in here and talk about what they look for in a deal and all that?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they're going to tell you, we want a world-class, proven team in a growing market with no competition, right? Yeah, and you know what? I would like to be Kelly Slater too. We all have our dreams, but so I tell you that picking an entrepreneur is a lot like falling in love, believe it or not. And when you fall in love, you are willing to look past people's shortcomings. On the other hand, if you don't love the person, if you're not attracted to the person, you're going to say, that person has a hairy chest, that person is a single mother, that person drives like a Prius, not a BMW. I mean, you're going to look for everything. On the other hand, when you like somebody, you're going to say, I always wanted a kid right away. I love that it's a Prius, going to get such high mileage and can park anywhere. I mean, so it's the same way with a company. So if people meet a company and they're just not interested in it, they're going to say, unproven team, unproven market, too much competition, located in Hawaii. How can they be successful in Hawaii? There's no tech market in Hawaii. On the other hand, if the people fall in love with that company, they're going to say, wow, they're in Hawaii. They don't have to compete with everybody. They can own UH, computer science department. They got all these people who worked at Google and NVIDIA and Apple and Meta. They all came to Hawaii during the pandemic, and they were working remotely, and now they're all pissed off because Jeff Bezos says you got to be back in the office for 3 days a week. They want to leave. I can cherry pick them. And if you fall in love with a company and you say, well, there's just a bunch of UH undergraduates, they're not a proven management team. Well, I mean, I hate to tell you, but Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs were not exactly a proven management team when they started Apple. And so, if you really fall in love with this concept, this weak team, objectively a weak team, you say to yourself, I love what they do. I love them as people. I'm a big swaggering venture capitalist. With my Rolodex, I can build their team for them. If they don't fall in love with you, they say, these freaking guys in Hawaii, they're like in the middle of the Pacific, they're undergraduate degrees in comp sci. Why should I fund them? Same company. Somebody falls in love, they figure they can help you. Somebody doesn't fall in love, they figure out all the bad things about you. So your job is to find people who fall in love with you. Now, the question becomes, how do you make somebody fall in love with you? And I think that the best way to make someone fall in love with you is the demo. Because PowerPoint is bullshit. I showed you how I could build a PowerPoint slide presentation in 30 seconds. Any asshole can do that, right? Well, any asshole who has embraced all their weapons anyway. So it's not the PowerPoint presentation, it's the demo. And so the goal of the demo is that the people see the demo and they can imagine themselves or other people using it. And so, lots of entrepreneurs, they spend a lot of time saying, well, this is a $20 billion market. We only need to get 1% of $20 billion. How hard could that be? Well, 1% of $20 billion is hard. And so what you want to do is, instead of using that kind of thing, you don't want to have to do this like take 1% of 20 billion calculation. What you want to happen is you want them to be sitting there saying, wow, I would use this. I could see a lot of people would use this. You want them to make the calculation in their head, not you saying, take 1% of 20 billion. So with Canva, you could, if you were pitching Canva, you would say, well, if we just got 1% of the graphics that are built every day, 5 billion graphics are made every day. If we got 1% of that, the better way to pitch Canva is look at our interface. You pick the kind of design you want to make, 16 by 9 presentation, Instagram, Etsy background, TikTok video. We have all these design types. We have hundreds of templates for each. You click on the template, you add your own text, you use generative AI to create, give me an image of a man standing by the side of a river with a duck flying into his mouth, and 30 seconds you have that graphic, right? And you say, wow, my spouse could use that for the church. I can use that for my book cover. My kids can use that for their studies. I can see why millions of people would use Canva. So what you want to do is you want to catalyze fantasy. You want to catalyze so that the person receiving your demo is fantasizing about how they and people they know can use the product. That's the easiest sale, because then they're selling themselves. Okay?
Thanks.
One more question? If someone has one? Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. My name is Eileen. I'm currently a marketing student at Shidler, but I also work on a team of marketers that makes a lot of big decisions for a relatively large organization. And so my question is, you kind of talk about always saying yes to your boss and kind of these decisions, but how do you balance upholding your personal values if you're proposed with a project or decision that goes against those, but you're afraid of kind of saying no to your boss or department?
Her voice was tough for me.
Okay. No. So if you're working in an organization, you talked about always saying yes. But if you have your own personal values and you get, a project gets thrown at you and it doesn't agree, or there's something that you want to apparently disagree with, like how do you go about addressing that?
When I say default to yes, the kind of question I'm referring to is, can you hook up our printers to the wireless network? Can you figure out how we can get on TikTok? Can you figure out how we can form a partnership with, the Highgate Hotel Management Company of Hawaii? Can you figure out, how do we build a relationship with the University of Hawaii Engineering School so we get the cream of the crop of their graduates? I'm not saying that if your boss says, how can we ship bricks as hard disk and fake everybody out? You say, yes, I can do that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you say yes when they ask you to figure something out and do something. But I'm not saying you should do anything illegal. Not at all. I mean, that I wouldn't go to work for Trump if I were you. I think
my question is less so like legality, but more so like personal values. So for example, if there's a decision that's going to be made and you're like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that tying into my personal values of community or something, how do you go about kind of disputing that decision or reacting to that as an employee?
Say that again for me.
No. So if it's not like they're asking you to do something illegal, it's more it conflicts with your personal values. How do you go about responding to that?
Give me a real example of a conflict in personal values.
So my example is there was a decision that was made where there was something, so we are very community-centric for an organization, and there was a decision that was being made that felt very corporate and very vanilla, and I really didn't feel that adhered to our company values as well as my personal values as a marketer. And so I was really unsure of how to go about responding to this decision. And so my question is, how would you, as a professional, respond to this interaction?
Okay, you got to give it to me.
Yep. So she works at a community organization. So there are community values, but their team was being asked to make a decision or proceed with a project, and it had more of a corporate feel to it. So it didn't agree with the overall, I guess, mission of the organization that's more community-based, as well as her own values, which are more community-based. So if there's like that sort of conflict, how do you?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a hard one because it kind of depends on what kind of person you work for, right? So if you work for an insecure asshole, then that's one thing. But if you work for a boss or a leader who is truly trying to be a great leader, that person should at least listen to you, right? So then the question becomes, how do you build a great response? And I would not lead with, it's against my personal values, I won't do that. I would lead by saying, here are some things you might want to consider. You're saying we should do this, but have you thought of all this? Go to ChatGPT and ask, like, if I take extreme example, if you work for a school and they say we're gonna take out all references to the Hawaiian people because that's a DEI subject. I would go to the leader and say, have you considered the fact and bop, 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 bop. And for all you know, maybe that leader has considered it and is going to tell you, well, I understand, blah, 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 but let me tell you, blah, 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 blah. And then you may learn something too, right? And that person may lay something. But of course, this is easy for me to say because some people, if you come back at them like that, you get fired, right? But I would argue that if you were facing a question like that and you came back with a measured and learned and reasonable and intelligent response and you got fired, you didn't want to work for that asshole anyway, so he probably did you a favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.